Democracy brought its own challenges for the Armenian society. Free speech is no longer the punishable sin it was in the past decades. It has become a tool to settle accounts instead. Although politics is the art of striking and taking blows, the young Armenian democracy has been striking and receiving blows below the belt recently. Non-normative language, lack of respect or boundaries, has taken the leading role on the political and media stage. EBU Deputy Director General Jean-Philippe Detender sits down with the voice of Yerevan for democratic solutions to the challenges democracy brought upon itself. Thank you for this opportunity.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Recently, we witnessed low political culture, unethical journalism, raving society members. All this emerged with our young democracy. How do all democracies tackle this? Where do you draw the line between free speech and a verbal anarchy?
I think that freedom of speech is key for a democracy, to function. People need to be able to express themselves. People need to be able to have access to independent quality information. So freedom of speech is not only a basic value of a democracy, but it's also key, for public service media. I think if you want citizens, to be informed, it is important that they have access to independent journalism. And the problem today is that we see that there are so many actors who try to give, misinformation to society, who are able and who have the opportunities and the means and the tools to bring false information, which leads to a lot of polarization. People live in a bubble, in an information bubble, in almost a societal bubble they want to live in, which deprives them from free media, from quality journalism. So the problem is not only to ensure that you have quality journalism, the other issue is that you need to ensure that people have access to it, and to go and reach and consume this independent news information as such. And I think for a democracy, it's key that they allow all voices to be heard, but also that they offer people a spectrum of opinions.
However, this freedom of speech is often abused, and my impression is that we do not yet have the barriers that would actually keep both the elite and the society from abusing it. So where do we put those barriers?
Yeah, I do understand, but it's not because freedom of speech is abused in some cases that you need to ban, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the core. You always need to secure it. I think we need to support, citizens, the people, the audience is much better in having a spectrum of views, whether they are black, or white, or in the middle. There needs to be a discussion. There needs to be a conversation. There needs to be an exchange of views. And I think one of the best means, for a country, for a democracy, is to invest in public service media. Public service media for decades now, and like in the case of Armenian radio, almost 100 years has been ensuring that all voices are being heard, that a discussion is taking place around key topics, which impact society, which impact, the quality of lives of people. And I think another part is we need to ensure that distribution, the access of independent content is assured. We also need to support people, younger audiences, in what I call media literacy. People need to learn that when they go on social media, what they read and what they view, that it is not necessarily, the truth, that it not necessarily comes from an independent source, that there may be bots, who produce information which tries to influence people in the wrong way. So I think educating people, educating all ages, all generations, to better invest into what is the source of the information and to read different sources of information is important. And especially today in the age of AI, it has become, much more easy to produce, information which is not correct, to create false, bubbles, information bubbles as such. So that's the disadvantage of AI. The advantage of AI as well is that you can debunk false information much more easy as well. But I think common sense is often important in sensing whether something is true or not true, and being able to do so.
State and church, opposition and ruling party frictions, and the media amplifying it all through a non-objective lens. A democratic oasis in the region, Armenia is facing threats to freedom that freedom has brought upon itself. Non-normative language used against the authorities, sometimes even by the authorities, tends to further divide and polarize. Hate speech by information consumers, plenty. The media, polarized. Ownership of media, not always transparent, serving doubtful political interests, all there. How does democracy navigate the very threats it has brought upon itself by offering too much freedom of speech? Does EBU have the answers? Jean-Philippe says even all democracies face polarization, and I'm still tapping in the hope of legislative solutions.
One of my biggest fears is, and you see it in the United States, it's this polarization. Mm-hmm. Society is really divided into two groups who fight one another. You see that media institutions in the US as well, they are, split in, supporting either Democrats or the Republicans.
This is what we're witnessing right now. Excuse my interruption. Right now, we're witnessing pre-election shows, the parties striking at each other's political past, and doing so using non-normative language. Speaking of AI, that reminded me of myself advertising pharmaceuticals, which I never did. But if we come back to our original question, do you believe that there are legislative gaps that enable the abuses of free speech?
Sure. Legislation, regulation is key in, first of all, ensuring that you have freedom of speech and that you have free media who are sufficiently funded to do their job. It's also important that there is legislation which debunks false information, but which also punishes, or tries to ban it. The problem with legislation is that it's often limited to a national territory. And we see that a lot of this misinformation doesn't come from within a country.
Exactly.
It comes from,
external threats, hybrid war against a country where the media becomes a tool.
Sure, external threats. It's some of these countries with a lot of money who try to stimulate polarization within a country, because polarization really helps them.
How does the media avoid becoming a tool in hybrid war, unless it's done intentionally? Because we know that in some cases it is.
Well, I think the media needs to be value-driven. If you look at public service media, it's all about, independence, it's about quality, it's about, innovation, it's about serving the audience, it's about serving all audiences, ensuring that they have the possibilities, to bring good content. I must admit that it becomes harder and harder, because often people want you, to be in either camp. And I recall when I had a discussion a couple of years ago with someone from the BBC who said that reporting about Brexit, either you're against Brexit or for Brexit, but when you report from the middle and when you explain what is really at stake,
no one cares, obviously.
No one cares, mm-hmm. and everybody is attacking you. So in a society where there's much more polarization, it becomes harder for public service media to report, independently, or to be appreciated for reporting independently.
Is quality journalism boring? Because it is less consumed.
No, it is. No, quality journalism is absolutely not boring. It is. We see with misinformation, with a lot of new formats, that it is. People want to consume easy content, easy media. And I think the role of public service media is to invest in quality journalism, but you can have quality journalism at various levels. It's about your news broadcast, it's about current affairs, but how do you translate important topics like climate change, like democracy, like elections. How do you make that digestible, for audiences who are used to a 30-second, snippet, who are used to
Exactly.
more smaller content? And I think there are many ways in which we know how to bring this sort of information to younger audiences as well. But it needs to be done in a specific way. If you see at how podcasting has been popular as it has never been as popular before. Young people may perhaps not listen to linear radio, but they do consume podcasts whenever they want, whenever they have time to consume it. And then when you invest in good podcasting, when you invest in quality journalism in podcasting, that's just one example of how we can support our remit.
So time for quality journalism to get creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
While the value-driven media, not too many of them anyways, are fumbling for ways to become more attractive, the scandal-hunting ones are awarded the likes, the shares, the laurels of the web world. While Armenian young democracy boasts media freedom, how the media use their freedom remains questionable.